All right, back for another beer review, and today I'll be reviewing yet another beer from Brewery Ommegang, and they are out of Cooperstown, New York, and this is their Oktommegang, the 2024 release. So they're calling this one a Märzen-style Lager, aka a Märzen-style Oktoberfest. It comes in at 5.8% alcohol by volume, 20 IBUs at the time of review. This can is just under 3 months old, and it also has a best by date of March 21st of 2025. So according to Ommegang, we should be more than good to go. They give this one a 9-month best by date, which pretty wild, but fine by me. So I believe, and anybody out there can correct me if I'm wrong, they released this one for the first time last year in 2023, but it was only in their tap room. So it was on draft, on tap. I don't think they released cans of it. And then this year, they decided to release cans of it. Now, I watched a video on YouTube from Ommegang, and they say that they brew this one with their house Belgian yeast. That, to me, is kind of different. So I'm kind of curious to see how that one works, if that imparts any kind of different flavors that you associate with Märzens. But yeah, on the back, they have a spiel that I have not read. We'll read it at the end. So we're going to pour it into the dimpled beer mug here and go from there. So yeah, I'm really curious to see how this one is. Again, I don't really know much about it other than, very generic in that YouTube video. They're just like, oh, get flavors of this, this, and this. And that was it. So we're going to give it a pour here. And I'm going to try to pour as much as humanly possible into this glass. I want to kind of get it looking real nice. This is a half-liter glass. So something like that looks very appropriate in the glass. Now look at that. As a Märzen goes, beautiful in my opinion. That looks beautiful. It has this beautiful like honey orange, almost amberish type of color to it. A pretty good clarity. There is some chill haze, and it's not like, you might be able to make a little bit of my fingers through there, but a decent clarity. Hold up to light, the clarity is much better. Very fine particulates. Has about now a finger, but it was about a finger and a half of this off-white, like I'd say like a bone white colored head. It's dissipating a bit in the glass, which is a bummer, but it is what it is. Let's get a nose. Oh, nice. So it has like this rich kind of bready caramel characteristic. A little bit of toffee, but it has like a bread, like a brown bread. A little bit of a honey kind of nose as well. Orchard fruits, a little bit of like a red apple. Has a very slight, like, I want to say spicy herbaceousness, but it's not like really spicy. It's more herbal than anything, like an earthiness, like an herbal earthiness. And if they are using this, now again, that video that I watched was from the 2023 release. They posted that like 11 months ago. And they talked about using the Belgian yeast. Now, that doesn't mean since they're using Belgian yeast that it's going to produce Belgian yeast characters in this beer. But I can't really detect anything Belgian-esque in this one. It smells like it's just going to be a straightforward Märzen, nothing too different about it. It smells really good. Let's get into it. Prost. Let me go back in. Let me say this. I really dig Ommegang. I do. One of the earliest breweries that I tried Belgian beers from, especially here in the U.S., a lot of their beers resonate with me, from Three Philosophers to, a bunch of their Abbey Ale, a bunch of beers. And I mean, I try a bunch of their stuff, and for the most part, they do a really good job with their stuff. I'm not saying they didn't do a good job here, but this is a bit different than I'm accustomed to. And I'm not sure I really care for it after those first 2 sips. Again, beer is subjective. We all have different palates, so on and so forth. So I'm going to try to pick this one apart and see why maybe I don't really care for it off of those first 2 sips. The body's fine. Lower side of medium, approach and medium. I think it's fine for 5.8. The mouthfeel is cool. It has a mild to moderate carbonation, more approaching moderate. It's crisp, has a smoothness to it. So body and mouthfeel are actually quite good. The taste is where I'm struggling a little bit. It's, for the most part, has some Märzen-style Oktoberfest characteristics. There's two things I'm getting in the taste that are kind of different, and one of them reminds me of like old American IPAs and American pales. And when I mean old, I mean like an American IPA that's 6 months old. 6 months old, maybe a year old. There's another thing that's reminding me a little bit of like Belgian beers. Again, I can't say for sure that they still use their Belgian yeast strain, but I wouldn't be surprised based on what I'm tasting. So let's try to pick this one apart. So forefront, I do get this bready, caramel toffee kind of amalgamation of flavors, which is nice. Kind of dives underneath the palate. Right after that, I get something that I don't think I've ever tasted in any kind of Oktoberfest beers, and that is like a fruited tea. You ever go to, say, some place like Cracker Barrel, or a place that has like iced teas and then they put like different fruit concoctions? Like Cracker Barrel will release different ones occasionally. Like the last time I went there, they had like a Granny Smith apple iced tea. They have their peach iced tea, which I love. And then one time they had a mixed berry tea, which was out of its world. So it's like you took iced tea and then you added fruit. I'm getting kind of like a fruited tea, like a raspberry iced tea, like a berry. There's some kind of fruity tea quality to this one that's really weird. And again, the tea part is what I get in like older faded American IPAs and pale ales, and even some hazies. And fruity kind of quality to that degree I get from like Belgian yeast occasionally. Belgian candy sugar. They're not using Belgian candy sugar, I'm pretty sure about that. But there's something Belgian-esque about the fruit character in this one. Again, I could be crazy. They may be using a different yeast strain this year, who knows? But there's something in this beer that's kind of different. And again, it's more of like a fruity iced tea. It's very weird. I don't necessarily dislike it. It's weird. It's just, that's best descriptor. This is weird. After that, though, towards the finish, I do get that like herbaceous kind of earthiness, maybe even a little bit of like a grassiness. It finishes semi to full on dry, very mild bitterness, not a lot of bitterness here. You know, it's a Märzen, typically not a lot of bitterness, but it does have a good dryness. Outside of that, like, I would say it's like a berry-esque tea or like some kind of fruited tea, like a dark fruit tea. I think this is pretty solid, but that kind of came out of left field in the taste, and it's very weird. I don't know how many times I can use that word. It's different to the point where it doesn't feel like it belongs in this beer. And based on as many Märzens as I've drank over the years, it doesn't. It really doesn't. But as a beer goes, so I'm going to give this 2 ratings because I think it's unfair for me to say because this is not a Märzen that I don't like it, because that's not the truth. Truth is, actually, I just said, I drink peach tea when I go to Cracker Barrel. That mixed berry tea was like one of the best teas I've ever had. And those teas are basically like, they take like their unsweetened iced tea and they just mix it with like for the mixed berry, like a mixed berry syrup or like a peach syrup. So, you know, I understand that that's not like real peaches or real berries or whatever. But what I'm saying is that characteristic doesn't belong in here. But anyway, I like those flavors. So this is a fun, enjoyable beer to some degree. It's just not to me like a straight on Märzen. And again, I'm just one dude on the internet giving my opinion. You take it or leave it. It doesn't really bother me whether you agree or disagree because we all have different palates. I'm sure some of you will love this beer and others will not care for it. To me, as far as a Märzen goes, not really what I'm looking for stylistically. We're going to give it one more sip and then I'm going to rate it. .8%, you really can't tell, which is nice. So it hides the alcohol, almost a 6%. I do think I'd like to see this a little less sweet too. The dryness is nice. I think I'd like to see a little bit less sweetness or maybe a little bit more of like a bitterness, like more of a mild to moderate bitterness as opposed to mild. But yeah, I don't know. I always say ratings don't matter and they don't. I think by now you should know that I think this is a solid, enjoyable beer, but it really doesn't mesh with what I'm looking for out of a Märzen-style Oktoberfest. It just doesn't. So we're going to give this 2 ratings. Stylistically, I hate to say this because, again, I like Ommegang stuff, and I implore you to try this out. Don't base your opinion off of what I'm saying. I never do that. Like, there's some, listen, and I know because I've been watching BeerTube for a long time as well. There are some people who their palates align with mine like 80% of the time. So if they say something, more often than not, I agree with them. And I'm sure some of you who watch me probably have that same opinion. Like, you're usually spot on for my palate, but we're all different. I will say this. If you want to try this one out, try it out. Don't rest on what I'm saying, because what I'm saying might not necessarily be how you feel about the beer. As far as a Märzen-style Oktoberfest goes, I can't give this higher. I'm going to give this a low 3. I'm going to go 2.9. Personal preference is a bit different. Personal preference, I'm going to give this a straight 3.5 out of 5. The reason for that is, again, I like the flavors in this. I think the flavors are nice. I just don't think they're stylistically what I want out of this beer. And, you know, more often than not, like, I give the style higher because I'll be like, oh, I'm not a huge fan of the style. So stylistically, it's a 4.5. But personal, it's a 3.75. This is actually one of the few times I go the opposite, where I don't think they nailed the style, but I still think it's a decent, solid beer. So, Ommegang, if you, I just spilled beer. Ommegang, if you somehow watch this, I'm gonna check this into the Instagram, and if again, it's just one guy's opinion, so it is what it is. I still love your beer. I do. I love a lot of Ommegang beer, but this ain't it, chief, for me anyway. And I got to be honest with my review. So 2.9 out of 5 stylistically, 3.5 as a beer as a whole. And I would like to try this again at some point, maybe next year, revisit it, not review, just revisit, just to see if maybe I got an off can, maybe something else. I have no idea. It's just, it is what it is. Anyway, we're gonna throw this one over here. Price point availability. I think I bought that in a mix 6. I bought that in a mix 6 section of a Wegmans grocery store. And I want to say 4 packs were like $12.99, $13.99. It was like 12 to 14 bucks, we'll say. So somewhere in that range. So not terrible. I personally wouldn't buy this again based on what I'm saying. But like, I don't think the value is bad if you want to try this one out. As far as a beer goes, I think it's fine. And availability is Ommegang. This is their fall seasonal, or one of their fall seasonals. You should be able to see it wherever you see Ommegang stuff. If you get a decent amount of their stuff, you should be able to find it. And they do have a beer finder, I'm pretty sure, on their website, so you can check that out as well. I'm really disappointed because I wanted to just love this. This is one of the 5 beers I'm reviewing during the official Oktoberfest celebration in Munich, Germany. It takes place from Saturday, September 21st until Sunday, October 6th. And like I said, listen, when you come to the Beer Patrol, I always try to be honest with you guys when it comes to reviews. And honestly, stylistically, this is not something that I think is all that good. But I don't mind it as a beer. If that makes sense, it makes sense. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I will say this, if you have had this before, please post in the comment section. Let me know what you love it. Did you have it at the tap room last year? Did you have it in a can this year? What do you think? Was there any differences? Did you only have it last year? Did you just have it this year? What do you think? This is the whole reason I have a channel. I love the interaction, the back and forth, discussing beer. And when I get a beer like this that's strange and not stylistically accurate for what I'm looking for, but still enjoy the beer to some degree, I'm always looking for other opinions out there. I'm going to check on tap, maybe look for some other reviews on YouTube, see what people are thinking about it. But it's definitely a miss for me, and that's a shame. But I always say, and I'll leave you with this, I don't care who your favorite brewery is. If you've drank enough of your favorite brewery's beers, there's at least 1, 2, maybe a handful of beers that you don't care for. And I would put this in that category from Ommegang. It's just not a beer that does it for me. But it happens. And it's going to happen again. It is what it is. Shutting this one down. Be on the lookout for the next Oktoberfest beer. I think this upcoming Saturday, it's going to be Shiner's Oktoberfest. Hopefully that's a little bit better. It is in Märzen, so it's probably a longer review, but whether the beer is fantastic or lacking, those usually make for the best reviews and also the longest. Cheers. Prost.